Okay, what we're looking at right now is usable energy because we're in getting ready to talk about energy conversion. So the ultimate goal is to produce ATP energy. So if you'll watch this video here about the basics of ATP. So everybody should have a sheet that looks like this, but not as colorful as mine. And we're going to fill this in as we go along through this PowerPoint, and we're going to do some sketchings of ATP on the back. So ATP is an acronym that stands for adenosine triphosphate. The key part of the adenosine triphosphate is the tri part. So what sets this apart from other molecules is the three phosphate groups. What it is a small energy storage molecule. It's easily made, it's easily broken. So it's made to store energy until that energy is ready to be used, and it's made to be broken to release that energy. What it is, it's our usable energy. So as we go through photosynthesis and cellular respiration, we'll look at the raw materials, the components necessary to make energy, which are carbon dioxide and water. But you have to have energy from the sun in order to combine them together and rearrange them to make glucose, which is chemical energy. And then ultimately, we use oxygen along with glucose to make ATP. So glucose is converted into waste products of carbon dioxide and water, and in this process, a large amount of ATP is created. The molecular structure of ATP, three basic parts. This is going from left to right outside in. We have adenine, which is a nitrogen base. We've heard that one before. Ribose, which is a sugar. We've heard that one before. And three phosphate groups, which is just phosphorus, inorganic phosphate. So it's phosphorus combined with three oxygens, or with oxygen. Whew. Examples of where you would use ATP energy. Well, we saw the use of ATP when we were looking at cell transport, passive versus active transport. And the big distinction between them is passive transport doesn't use energy and active transport uses energy. And the energy we're talking about is ATP. Lots of cell processes use ATP energy, including the two processes that we're going to look at. We're going to focus on photosynthesis and cell respiration. Now, we are going to look at the molecular structure of ATP. Instead of sketching it here in this little tiny spot, we will sketch it much bigger on the back. So take yourself a moment here to sketch this on the back of your ATP note sheet, and then we will label it. Again, I'm going to just kind of go left to right with this. So we're starting out with adenine, this nitrogen base. In the middle is ribose, a sugar. And then on the right side, on the end, are the three phosphate groups. Now, this is the focus of ATP, are the three phosphate groups. So this is all about storing energy until it's needed and then releases the energy for use. So where this energy, most of the energy is stored in this molecule is in this bond between the second and third phosphate group. That's where the energy is stored. So in order to release the energy, a bond must be broken between the second and third phosphate group to release the energy. In order to store it again, you build the bond. Now, when you break this bond to release the energy, the molecule is no longer ATP, it's then ADP, adenosine diphosphate. So some people consider this a cycle of going from ADP to ATP and back again. So when ATP is used for energy, when you break that bond, that third phosphate group is removed, which results in ADP. And the only difference between them is how many phosphate groups they have. So instead of triphosphates, diphosphate. When you break that bond, you do release the energy that's in it, and you're left with this third phosphate group. So ATP is produced by phosphorylation. Now, phosphorylation is just adding a phosphate during the process of cellular respiration, which might also be referred to as aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration because it requires oxygen. So this ATP, this formation occurs during the whole entire process of cell respiration, which has 3 steps: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and then the electron transport chain. Glycolysis is an anaerobic process. It doesn't require oxygen, that's conducted by all organisms, and it produces a net gain of only 2 ATP. It's not a lot. The Krebs cycle, which follows and actually occurs inside of the mitochondria. So some organisms can't do this, like prokaryotes, because they don't have mitochondria. You also make a small amount of ATP there as well. But the bulk of ATP is produced during the third and final stage of cellular respiration, which occurs in the membrane of the mitochondria, which is called the electron transport chain. So the bulk of your ATP is made there.